Hello everyone and welcome back to the Coding Amateur. In our last video, we would have looked at developing our restaurant app. And one of the things we identified is that while we are developing our app, we would still like our customers to access some of our available resources. And we'd also like to let them know that our website is under construction. And the scenario we created last time was that of a developer modernizing a website for a client, and the client wants it down. They just don't like it anymore. They want it down. They have existing customers, and customers may be coming to their old site and they would get an ugly page stating that the server is down. We don't want that. So what we want to do is create a page telling customers that the site is under construction, but there are resources on, be it Facebook, Instagram, where you could access some of the resources that are still available. All right. So we want to do that. So we want to create a site under construction page. So in this video, we will create a page, and in our next video, we will host that page on our VPS. Now, if you have been following this series, you would have known that we have a VPS with a director's backend, and this is our React frontend that we are now working on. And we want to add our page telling our customers or clients that our site is under construction to that VPS. So we want to host it on our VPS. Okay. So I have an app open already, right? A React Router framework app, and it's just plain home, and we're going to create our page. All right. So this is what the end goal is going to look like. Now the most important thing is not necessarily the image in the background or how I arrange the page. You could use whatever design you like or style, but the idea is really just creating the page and using Tailwind to really style it and get it to look the way that we want, and also to show that if you're creating a page telling your clients that it's under construction, the page doesn't have to be boring, and the page could also give a little about your business as well. So if you notice, right under Fine Cuisine for a restaurant, we are telling those who come to the site a little bit about ourselves or what we do. So you could add an about us section on this page with a brief about the company as well, and then we have all our contact information to the top, and then we have a note saying that our site is under construction. Don't worry, we'll be up soon. If you want to improve the user experience, you could actually have a countdown timer showing how many hours before the site will go live. All right, so that's up to you if you want to do that. This is just the basic that we are going to create, and I think the high points that we should make note of is that although our site is under construction, we can still direct customers to resources that are available. So we have our email address, our phone number, our address where the physical restaurant is located. You can also add Facebook or your Instagram account, if you have one, to our to the page as well. In fact, I think I may add a Facebook and an Instagram icon down at the bottom of the page or something like that. So we could do that after. Okay, so let's jump into it and get started. So let's go to our blank page. All right, we have home. We want to get rid of this home, and we want to get rid of this here as well. Okay, so we should have a blank canvas. Okay, so we have a blank canvas. All right, so in our app, I want to create an assets folder. An assets folder. and I want to, inside of that assets folder, I want to create two other folders, one called images and another called icons. Okay, that's our assets folder, and I want to put our background image here. All right, so let's see. Let me add a background image to our okay, so just give me, let me just locate that image very quickly. And you can use any image that you want. I am going to use my restaurant app image. Nice. And I have it, and I'm going to drag it across here, and there it is. So I have my restaurant app image there. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the background. Okay, and I want to put a tint over the background because I want the writing to stand out. I want the text on the background image to stand out. If you notice, the text is very clear and the background does not obscure the font and the text and all of that, so it's easy to read. Okay, so let's first add our background. So I'm going to use the style with a double mustache, as they call it, or double curly braces. All right, and let's add background image, and we have it here, background image. And let's use our template literals or the backticks, and we're going to go URL, and let us add app / assets / images, and that is / rest.jpg. And if we save that, we see nothing, right? Because we did not give it a height or a width. And this is where we can add our classes. So we want the height to be screen, or you can use LVH, which you can look up in Tailwind, which allows you to you have DVH, which is the device view height, and you have LVH as well, which also defines a way in which you could occupy the full height of the screen. So you can read up on Tailwind and look at the different options and features of the different height features. Okay, so I have my background and it's the full height of my screen. Okay, so if I increase that, that's the height of the browser right there. So that is what we want, but it is very bright. So if we add text on top of this, it may not be easily readable. So we want to darken it a bit. So to do that, we are going to overlay it with a dark background with opacity, and then we're going to do a BG blend overlay. This is, and all this is Tailwind. So Tailwind is doing this for us underneath it. So we're going to add BG, let's go slate -900. So that is going to give us a very dark tint, right? BG slate 900. Let's add 70. That's going to be the opacity, and we're going to do BG blend overlay. Okay, and if we save that, if we save that, you should see that our image got a bit darker. So that's the tint. So just to show you that it works, I'm just going to delete this, delete and save. And let me just, right, so you see that it's way brighter. And let me just put it back, and let's save. And you see the tint there, it got darker, right? So that's what we want. So we want to put a tint there. All right, so now that we have our background, what we want to do is I want to add our next step would be to add, let's go to a finished page. I want to add this top level component here. It looks like a navigation, but it's actually just information concerning the restaurant along with our logo. So I want to add this to the top. So let's go inside of this div, and I want to use the section tag because we're going to have more than one section. So in this section, I'm going to have a figure, and that is going to be my logo. Now, because I already have this logo created, I'm just going to copy it, because remember, if you have been following, we would have created pages, and we would have done our logo. So I would have had all these created already. You would have to create yours, and you could pause this video, create your logo, and then put it up. Okay, so I'm just going to add my logo here, and I'm going to save that. Okay, all right, so for the logo, all right, so I just need to get that logo. All right, and I'm just going to put it in images. Okie dokie, and we should be good to go. Right, so I have my logo and it's saved, and if we come to our app, there's my logo. Let me save it. Right, and so there's my logo. Okay, so let's now add our contact information. So what I would want to do is, I don't want to manually put in, create a div, 3 divs to put in the information for address, email, and phone, because each one could represent a div, and in that div I would have the address, and then the next div I'll have the email and the information, phone. What I want to do is to create the data in a data file, and then just map through or cycle through the array and populate the different fields. So what I will do now is, let's create that data. So if I go to app, and let's create a folder called data, and in that, let's create a file called site data.ts, and let's create export const, and let's call it contact. Okay, and that is equal to an array, and let's all right, so let's create the first value. So we want an ID, and we'll make that ID 1. We want a label, and the label should reflect what information is being displayed. So the label would be address, email, and phone. These would be the labels, and then we'd have the information, which would be what the address is, what the emails, and what the phone number actually is, right? So let's have a label, and this first one will be address. All right, that should be a string. All right, and then we would want to do info. I'll just do info, and that will be a string. Now I made up a fictitious address, which is 142.7A Trendy Avenue, 142.7A Trendy Avenue, right? You could make it anything you want, and then what I want is an icon. and this is also going to be a string. Now I'm going to use an icon component that I created. Now I do have a video showing how to create that component. So if you did not look at that video, I would advise you to pause this video, go look at that icon component, create it, and then come back in. Because I'm not going to go in depth into how I created it. I'm just going to use it here. But you could go back to that video and see how to implement the icon component. So I need my icon, and for an address I want to use the location icon. So I'm going to look for location, and let's see if I can find that. You're right, and I want to use this one, and let me copy. I'm copying the path here. Okay, again, this may not make sense to you, but what I would advise you to do is go look at my icon component, the video on how I created it, and then that should make sense. Okay, so let's copy this now. So that's one. I'm going to copy. Let's make two. Let's make this two. Second is going to be email. Email. And our email is going to be our restaurant email. So that will be tastebuds@email.com. Right, that's our email, and we need an email icon. So let's go back to our remix. That's the email. This is the one I want. I'm going to copy again from the path, and again, this would not make sense to you if you did not look at my previous video on how to create this icon component or the icon component. So please go back and pause this video, go back and look at it, and then you can come back and resume. So let's paste that. Why am I having... Okay, all right, so oops. Okay, right, so I have that. Now let's add our third contact. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to add that here, and let's make that 3, and this is going to be phone. This is going to be phone, and we need a phone, and let's just give it any arbitrary number. So it's going to be 555 555 5555. Okay, let's go phone. All right, we'll be using this one. Let's copy, and let's replace this. Okay, so I have created our site data, or the data for our contact information. So that is completed, and that was simple. So we have an ID, we have a label, and then we have our info and our icon, which we can see here. We have address, that's our label, this is our info, and this is our icon. So let's implement that now. All right, so let's close that off. Let's come back. So I have logo. I like to just label the sections of the code, so when I come back I can easily jump to, you know, a different whatever section I would like to. So this is the logo, and right underneath that I want to create our contacts, but all that is within the section, right? So I'm going to name this contact, right? So okay, so first things first, let's create, we want to cycle through the array, and as we cycle through the array we can pull the information into our app from the data that we created, which was site data. So let's go contact. Okay, let's cancel that, sorry about that. contact, and we're going to call this from assets data side data. So let's call that contact. All right, and we are going to, let me just delete the imports that we don't need. So I'm just going to, okay, let me see, I've got some squiggly lines here. All right, just want to delete the imports that we don't need. Okay, so we have contact, right? And let's dot map, and let's call that item. So item would represent the different data we have within the array. All right, and now that we have that, let us, let's just add the import. Right, so we imported it. Okay, so let's add a div. Okay, we have that div. And the first thing we want to do is to call our icon. So we're going to call the icon component, which we have. Okay, now our icon component takes in an icon, and that is going to be item dot icon. Okay, we also need a width, and we are going to use width equal 24, and a height and a height equal to 24 as well. Okay, so we have our width, we have our height, we need a fill. This is required for our icon. So we're going to use fill slate-50. Okay, which is an off-white, not pure white, but an off-white. Okay, so let's save that. So we have our icon. Now if you look, it cycled through our data and it gave us all three icons: address, email, phone. So let's get our labels and our information there as well. All right, so we want to create another div just underneath our icon, and in that div we want to add an h1 for our label. So that's going to be item dot label, and underneath that a p tag for the information, and that will also be item dot info. And if we save that, we should see our information. Right, so you see that there's a space there. The reason we don't see it is because the text is dark. So we want that text to be the same off-white color as the icons. So let's give the text slate-50, and if we save that, we should be able to see it, right? So it's there. Okay, we want to capitalize the first letter of our labels, so let's add a class to that as well, and we're going to use capitalize. Right, okay, and right, so the first letter has been capitalized, right? So we have that. We want to make the text small, so we want to add text dash xs. Let's save that, and our text is small, right? So that's it. So now we have the information we want to structure the data on our page. So let's do that right now. Okay, so let's come on this div here. So in this div, we want to make this a flex container. and we want to do items center. Okay, and we want to give it a space between them on the x-axis of 2. And let's see how that looks. Okay, so that really transformed our icon. So it placed the icons alongside the label and the information, so it's formatted much better. All right. Okay, so now that we have that, what we would want to do is we want to structure it like this. Okay, so let's go back to our app. Let's go back to the top, and in our section, let's add a class. We want to make that a flex container, and we want to do justify between an item center. Now this would spread out the logo and our contact information across the entire page, but we don't want to do that. We don't want the width of the information to span the whole page. We want to have a smaller width in the center of the page, and we're going to use 1024. So we want to make the max width of our section 1024 pixels, and we're going to do MX Auto, which is going to center it on the page. Okay, and we want to give it a padding top of 20, and we want to give it a slight padding of 4, so that when we come down to smaller screens, that's where that padding will come in very handy. So we are putting that up front. Okay, and let's click save. All right, and let's see what we have. And there you have it. So this looks the same as this. All right, so we have this, but at the moment it's not mobile friendly because it looks ugly when the screen shrinks, so it is not mobile friendly. So to make it mobile friendly, what we would want to do is we want to hide this contact information in this format and put it in a different format that would fit a mobile screen, and we want to center our logo. So let's bring this down to a smaller screen. Okay, and let us hide our contact information at the moment. So this is our small screen, so let's put this on the side for now, and let's make this let's bring this here, right? Okay, so let's hide this for now. So this div. Oh, and one thing I forgot, when we mapping through an array, we need to add a key which would be able to differentiate between each data set within the array. So the key is how the app and the browser would identify each data unit within the array. So the key would be added to each value, and it would need to be unique. So we need to use a unique identifier for each data set. And when I say data set, we have address, email, and phone. So if we go back to site data, you would see that in the array we have 3 entries, and each one must be identified by a unique identifier. In this case, this is the ID. So to allow the browser and the app to know how to differentiate between them, we need to add that identifier here as a key, and we will use the ID as that key. Okay, I hope that made sense. All right, so here what we want to do is we want this particular contact, we want it to be hidden on small screens, but on medium screens we want it to be shown. So we will add flex here. So let's remove flex from here, and this will be hidden but shown, right? So there it goes. So it is hidden. All right. Now, what we would want to do is we need to put back our contacts underneath the logo. So what we're going to do, we want to copy this. We want to copy our contacts. We are copying this. And underneath section, we are creating a next div. And we're going to paste that here. And let's take away hidden. Let's switch this around. So let's put flex here. And let's do MD hidden here. So it's going to be seen on small screens, but it's going to be hidden from a medium screen and up. So you see we have our contact information there. Now if I should increase the screen size, you notice it jumps back to the original, and as we shrink the screen it is hidden and we have this. So let's make this look a little bit better on a mobile screen. Okay, all right. So for this here I just want to add a mobile, so I'm going to put this above. Okay, right, and this is I want to put this above the div, right, and this is going to be mobile, so that we understand our code and we could easily jump to whichever section we are looking for. So I've got a logo. I have the, I'll put this as main contact, and then underneath that we have the mobile contact, right? And the mobile contact is out of the section because when we hide the main contact, we want this one to show underneath the logo. So that's why we have hidden it. All right. Now, if we look at, this is what we are aiming for. If you look at this one, you see that it's centered, and then we have our logo, our contacts displayed here. So let's continue. So what we want to do, let's go back to our style, our section. Right now, our section does a justify between, and it is still affecting our logo. That's why our logo is to one side of our screen. What we want to do is we want to make these styles available at the medium screen. So we want, so by default, if you create a flex container, by default, the children in that flex container will be placed in a flex row. We want the flex row to be active at a medium screen, but on this mobile screen, we want it to be in the column form or flex col. So let's add flex col, and let's save that. And you notice that our taste buds icon goes center. Right, so we want that to happen, but we don't want to lose the flex row attribute at screens greater. So if you notice, this is what happens if we do that. So what we want to do is on medium screens, we want it to go back to flex row. So MD medium screen, let's do flex row. Okay, and let's save that. Flex row, and let's open it out again and let's see what happens, and we get back our original, which is what we want. And as it goes to a mobile screen, we get the taste bud center. So now let's work on this. We want it to look like this, so let's do that now. All right, so we more or less have that. So we need to now work on our mobile contact. All right, so let's work on our mobile contact. So right now we have flex. We want to make this into a flex column. Right now it's in the flex row. We want to make this into a flex column. So again, just as we did before, let us do a flex column. All right, so that centers our the contact information. We want to do a space, so we're going to do space dash y dash 4, and we want to give it a margin top of 8. Okay, I did not put a space. Margin top of 8, right? And it's right, so that gives it a little space. And I think we have everything there that we need. So now we need to alter our information, the label and information. So to do that, we want to add to our div, we want to make our div a flex container. Okay, that's nice. And I am missing one more thing. Right. Okay. All right. So I am going to make one slight change. I am going to cut this. I'm going to copy this from here. So let's put that here. All right. Oops. Let's cut this out from here. Okay, and I want to cut this also. Gonna put that there, and that should be it. And let's move our hidden to the main div. So sorry about that. Okay. All right. So this is what we actually want, and then we want to do items.center. Okay, that seems to be good there. Okay, so let me make sure that I have everything. I want to move this from here. All right, so let me move this from here. I'm going to cut that. Let me put that here. Okay, so that's it. So that's it for our contacts and our logo. So it looks just like this one. Okay, I think we need to just put a little space in between the address. So what we will do here is we will come on the side of label, we'll do space and put a hyphen, and let's save that, and that should give us a little put space on either side. Okay, let's see that. Right, nice. That's it. Okay, and we can just put a little space in front of the not the label, the info. Some space in front of the info. Okay. All right, so that's it for this. All right, so I think we are good to go there. We are good to go. All right. Okay, now my let me just look at side data, these buds. Okay, that make sure everything is good. All right, item label. Okay, we seem to be good there, and we are good here. All right, so we are good here, and let's expand it, and it works great. Coming back, and all right, so that's great. So we have been able to create our top um, our top item here with our logo and our contact information. So now the next section we need to create is our fine cuisine and a little about us. So let's do that. So this is where we're going to create our next section. So we have our first section here, and that section contains our logo and our contact information. Then we have our mobile version of the contact information in this div, and then underneath this is another section. Okay, and in this section we will have main content, right? So let's just copy this, and this will be our main content. Right, main content. Okay, so let's create that. So we want to create, again, in this section we wanted to have a max width. So let's do class name, and we want to do a max width 1024 pixels, and that MX auto to center it, and a margin top of 20. Right, and we want to add our H1. So let's add our H1 tag, and inside that we're going to put fine cuisine, and we want to make that very right, and we want to make that large, that will make it 7XL, and let's give it a color. That would be 50. Okay, in fact I think I want to make that 9XL. 9XL, that would be slate is 50, and let's make that font extra light. Extra light, and we'll go at text center. All right, so let's see what that looks like. So let's go to our app, and we have it. So that's our fine cuisine text center. Okay, and let's now go to our p tag. Now I'm just going to copy the text. You could put whatever you want. Remember, this is not a real restaurant. So I'm just going to put in my text that I have, and you can put in yours. Okay, and it's dark, so we need to add some style to our p tag. Right, so we want to make the text size large, and we want to text us, that's our color, and we want it to be center. Okay, give it a little margin 4, and we want to give it a width. We don't want it to be spread across the screen. So if you look at it, it's spread across the screen. We want it to be a little to be a little not as, we don't want it to be as wide. It doesn't look as good, so we want to reduce the width. So let's give it a width of about let's try 85, and that should give us a width about 85. All right, and if we look at it, right, so no, that doesn't give us what we want. So let me 85 doesn't give us what we want. Let's give it a width of 250. Let's try 150. 150. Okay, no, that doesn't give us a width of 150. Let's try. Okay, so this looks much better. That looks much better. And we want the text to be larger. Oh, I didn't spell text good, so it's text LG, and it looks bigger there. All right. We still have, so let me make sure I have all my text. I have we have text large. We have the color. Oh, text center. Forgot all the R and the E. Let's save that. And so we are good to go there. Good to go. All right, it's still not as big as I would want it, so I'm going to increase the font size to 2XL to match what we have, and that looks more like it. That looks more like it, right? So we have our fine cuisine, and now we need to add this divider. So let's add that divider to our code. So underneath our p tag, we're going to add a section. And this is going to be our under construction message coming here. All right. So underneath our p tag, we could just put just label it for fun. I mean, we don't. This is the main content, so maybe we don't necessarily. But I'll just put under construction, right? And that would be it. Under construction. Okay. So we have our div, right? And inside of that div, I want to create another div. And we're going to have two p tags for our content. All right, so what is this div? This div is what we're going to use for our divider. So we're going to do a border and top and about 4 thickness, and we want to give it a color, and we're going to maintain our slate 50. So border dash T dash slate dash 50. That's the color we are going with, and we're going to give it a margin bottom of that div. We're going to give it a margin bottom of 4, and we're going to give it a margin on both sides of 20. So we're going to give it a margin of 20 on both sides, which is mx20. All right, so if we save that, we see that it's covering the entire thing. We're going to fix that. All right, so don't worry, we will fix that. So that's how it's looking for now, but we will fix that. All right, so let's get our first p tag, and that will be our site is under construction. I'm going to just copy and paste. Okay, our site is under construction, and don't worry, we'll be up soon. So let me copy that, and don't worry, we'll be up soon. Okay, so for this, we're just going to do text dash 2XL and a font bold. All right, and for our next text, which is the second p tag, let's do a text center, and let's do XL and a margin top of 2. Okay, and let's see how that looks. And of course it's in, so let's just Let's fix that. So let's come to this div on top here, and let's make a text that's slate-50. Let's also make that a flex container. And let's do a justify the center and an empty dash 10. Oops. And let's save that. Okay. So our site, our stuff there disappeared. Okay, so that is not how we want it to look. This is how we want it to look. So let's go back and see what we did wrong. Okay, let me just get rid of this. All right, so I have a div, I have flex, justify center, empty 10, text slate-50. Okay, and then I have this div here, which is border T4, border T slate-50, and MB4 MX20. Okay. All right, I know what I did wrong. So, okay, so here's the thing. Okay, I'm seeing a mistake. So I want the flex not to affect each individual item, but I want the flex style to affect these two tags as a whole. So what I would want to do is wrap that in a div, wrap them in a div, and I hope this makes sense. Wrap them in a div, because I don't want these individual items to be affected by the flex container individually, but I want them to be affected by the container collectively. So what I'm doing, I would have placed all of them into a single div, and this div I want to be the child of this flex container. So what this is going to do is center the div itself with these tags inside of the div. So it's the div I want centered and not, so I want the flex affect this div alone and not the contents of the div. And there you have it, right? So that was the mistake that I made. Okay, so it looks similar to that. All right, so that's it, more or less finished. What we will have to do with our app is we will have to make it now mobile friendly, and that should be easy. So as you notice, this is mobile friendly, but the Fine Cuisine is not. So we want it, so let's go back to, sorry, our main content, Fine Cuisine, and we have a text 9XL. So at a medium breakpoint, we would want it, we want it at a medium breakpoint to be 9XL, right? And on a small screen, we would want it to be 7XL. So let's save that. That looks good, right? So that's great. Now we have our we have underneath Fine Cuisine, we have our section stating a little bit about us. We want to make that smaller as well, so we will make this medium. So at a medium screen size, it would be 2XL and above, right? So let's make that text that, let's make that large. Okay, so we need to also change the width. So our width currently is 250. We want to make that width, so let's make that width MD. So at a medium screen size and larger, it will be width 250, and at smaller screen sizes, it would be 85. All right, so let's do that. And we see that there, nice. Let's add one more thing to that. Right, so MX Auto centers our text. And so we have our text on small screen. So let's see how that looks now. Okay, so if we go to a screen size just larger than medium, so if we move from medium to a large screen size, it looks ugly here as well. So let's put an intermediate size. Let's see how we could experiment with that. Let's go, we have 85, let's go to about 120 and let's see how that will look. So we will do, we have medium, let's do L, let's do a large screen size. So let's put this for a large screen size, LG, and let's do medium, smaller. So that would be width dash 150. Let's try 150. Okay, so let's see how that looks. 150. Right, so it wraps nicely. So this would represent your mobile or small screen size. Then this would represent your tablet, which would be about 768 and larger. And then when we expand, this would represent your large screen size, which is about 1024, and everything above 1024 will remain with that width. Okay, so you see that it is responsive right down to the end. Okay, and there we have it. We have finished our site under construction page, and that's it. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial in creating, I think it's something that we should practice if we are modernizing a site or even building a website for a client. We could just let their customers know, potential customers know, that it is under construction and that we are working on it, so that they know that something is happening. And we can make the website very nice and very inviting, very attractive, and I think it would be a great way to display our skill as a developer, to let our customers know what is happening and to create a really beautiful site. So now that this is finished, the next step would be to host this on our VPS for our clients and customers to see. So we will do that in our next video.